Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Nithsdale Area Committee, which has been live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available to on the Council website for public listening. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally by using their title, example, Councillor Jones, so that it's clear who are councillors and who, by the process of elimination, are officers. Similar to the process now followed at full council when considering motions or amendments which are substantive in nature, I will call a recess where necessary. So I may seek governance advice on competency. So this is good practice in governance terms. Also provide for governance to be able to collate and circulate the terms of said motion or amendment to members, in order that they have the opportunity to properly review it. I hope this process makes matters more effective, and I seek members' support in implementing this. Are members okay with this process? Thank you. For remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute, and if you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or your iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it's intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then write join when you rejoin the meeting, so that we can keep track of whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. So Tracy, can you provide the Cedrin and any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. We've got 18 members present in total. 10 members present here in person at Council HQ, being the Chair, the Vice Chair, Councillor Beretti, Councillor Dorward, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Hislop, Councillor Maureen Johnson, Councillor Slater, Councillor Stitt and Theo Calmack, our Locker representative for the Youth Council. 8 members present on Microsoft Teams, being Councillor Bell, Councillor Blake, Councillor John Campbell, Councillor Jordan, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Walters, Councillor Wood. Oh, he was in the meeting. He is in the meeting.
Is in the meeting?
Yep, sorry. And not present at the start of the meeting is Councillor Malcolm Johnston and Ryan McLaughlin, our Youth Councillor for North West and Fries. And I've got no formal apologies. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. And do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest that they wish to declare? Councillor Hislop.
It was actually put Councillor Johnston's apologies in.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Vice Chair.
Thanks, Provost. Agenda item 7. I am Chairman of the Sanker Enterprise Company who helped to develop or produce the local place plan. So I have a declaration on the Sanker local place plan that's been considered today, but not the one like head one. So if I were able to, you were able, Provost, to split them so that I can leave while the Sanker one is being considered and then come back to committee when the one that has been discussed or considered, I'd be grateful.
No worries, we'll do that. Thanks, Councillor Dempster. Minute of previous meeting of the 11th of March. Are we happy to approve this minute? Okay, thank you. So, agenda item 4, Economy and Infrastructure Directorate, the Area Committee Performance Monitoring of 25-26 End of Year Assessment. So the first report we are being asked to consider today is this performance report. As you may remember, we agreed the new programme management arrangements in September 25. The aim of these reports is to give us better oversight and a clearer picture of how services and projects are performing locally. This item gives us the chance to look at and discuss performance information on a number of success measures and projects that the committee has identified as being important to Nithsdale. So Sandra Harkness is on Teams. Good morning, Sandra. so that she's here to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Sandra, do you have anything to add to the report?
Morning. No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll open up to members. Any member questions? Councillor Hislop.
Chair, it's on the customer satisfaction. Recently, I've noticed when I'm walking about the town centre, there's a lot of paving stones that are wobbly. Now, this is an ongoing issue. It's not a case of it's happened once or twice. This is every year or something, and a lot of it's caused by traffic crossing pavements. Are you seeing that this is going to start being reflected in the customer satisfaction with pavements and footpaths at 4.5 on page 18? Because this seems to be an issue that's getting worse across the town.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. I'll actually ask Karen Brownlee wants to answer that one.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hislop. So a couple of points, maybe just to bring members up to date in terms of where we are as an E&I directorate and team, just in relation to specifically Dumfries Town Centre, which would include paving, slabs, cleanliness, etc. So May last year at Nithsdale Area Committee, it was Councillor Stevenson requested a report be brought back jointly between Neighbourhood Services and Roads, specifically in relation to that. That is now, or will be, on the forward plan for the next Nithsdale Area Committee, which will specifically look at those items. Now, separately, there is a piece of work which the three of us are starting to look at, just in terms of Dumfries Town Centre as a whole, looking at options of pedestrianisation, potentially damage being done to paving slabs, etc. So that's a piece of work that we're starting, that we will bring back through service committee as appropriate. In relation to the customer satisfaction elements within this report, yes, I would see that any work feature in particularly Dumfries Town Centre, but other footways and pavements starting to feature and filter through service updates. If it's okay with members, I have Ian Dalrymple online, who's the Roads Operation Manager, who may be able to give a specific update in relation to that point, if that would be okay, Chair.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem, Karen. So, yeah, I do have an update regarding general repairs as well. However, Dumfries Town Centre specifically, we do have planned maintenance to take place within Dumfries Town Centre to address some of the issues that you've mentioned regarding cracks on slabs, trips, loose and missing stuff, some of the areas where we've done temporary repairs, where there's areas that have been tarmacked. So we do have a works package that's actually going out later on this week. We are hoping to appoint a contractor with a requested completion date for these works of the 13th of the 6th, prior to the Geed Neighbours event. That happens every year. As I say, that work is planned and scheduled to take place prior to Geed Neighbours, subject to the appointment of the availability of contractors. That's in relation to Dumfries Town Centre specifically. Above and beyond that, we have sort of identified the trend of footway repairs in general. So the planned capital budget has increased to 434,000, and that's up from 170,000 spent from last year. Within that specifically, that includes two kilometres of preventative treatment, including microsurfacing to the pavements and footways within the Nithsdale area. As I say, that's a sort of high-level update. If anyone needs any further information, I'm happy to catch up with you individually.
Thank you, Ian. You happy with that, Councillor Hislop? Okay, thank you. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's on the same vein really as my colleague about the state of the town centre. It's absolutely terrible. It's not just the roads, it's below the summer seats, beside the summer seats. The fountain has got large slabs where you walk up to the fountain. They're actually loose as well. And also outside Greg's, that's been repaired about 3-4 times, and it's still not right. So I don't know who's getting paid for that, but they need to do a much better job. And this is our capital town in the region, and it needs to be looked after a lot better than it's being done. I mean, there's a photograph here. I have here. I'll show you this. This is a pole that was in the town. Some of them are being cut down. And that one's been cut down with a plastic bag over the top of it.
We don't have photos. No one else has photos. You've just got a piece of paper there. Do you have a question for this?
Yes, well, yes,
Councillor Hislop raised all that. We have had it
yes.
addressed. Things are on the programme of work. So.
Right. There's a large pole outside Waterson's near there anyway, where it's been cut down. It's obviously been burnt down. You can see the burn marks and the metal shards. A green bin liner had been put over the top of it, but obviously that's came off for some reason or other, and that's a photograph I took yesterday, and it's obviously a danger to the public. There should really be, that shouldn't be like that. It should be fixed, and it's right in the middle of our high street. Thank you.
No, thank you for those comments, Councillor Slater. I think it would be a good thing if you reported these specific issues. Well, that's fine. They'll be on the programme of works, but thank you for noting them. Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Thank you for the report. My question's on some of the information contained in the report. Specifically, as at 4.3 on page 17, that we've agreed to have this report back in May and November to give the most up-to-date statistics that we can to the committee. They're lacking in some areas, unfortunately, which is really not what we expect. I'd ask the Chair and Vice Chair to note this, please, because at, for example, 4.14 on page 20, the number of businesses inspected by Trade and Standards, there's no way of recording that, apparently, on an IT system, which came to an end in March 2025. This is May 2026, and there's no IT system for that in place yet. This is really important. We need that information. And what you're saying is that people are doing recording statistics manually, so we don't have the information. In my time, in my younger time, we didn't have IT systems and recorded systems manually. We had the information. We managed to pull that out. So can I ask why that hasn't been done? Because there's no point in putting that in if there's no information about it. That's really not good. Sorry, I'm trying to use my iPad for the first time here, and it's just collapsed in front of me. Apologies. Really, I could go on. I get that reporting's hard to drill down for each area committee, but if you're going to say you're going to do something, then it needs to be done properly. We need to be, and I think as a chair and vice chair, I would ask that you ask that it is done properly, so the information that we get is actually relevant and not generalised, because we are a Nithsdale area committee, we're not a DGC area committee. Same with 4.12, the play park equipment, that's across the whole of DGC. That's fine, but I don't know what's happening in Nithsdale. So it's really important that we drill down. I think we have enough admin staff and probably able staff to do this. I'm not sure why it hasn't been done, so it'd be useful to know. We do rely on IT overtly. All of us rely on IT now, but we must have people that can extract these statistics for us here. Otherwise, there's no point putting it in the report. And again, 4.18, transport hubs. Castle Douglas isn't in Nithsdale, as far as I know. So again, it's just attention to the detail in the reporting, please. We've got 3 senior staff here who wrote this report. I would ask that attention to detail is given a higher precedence than perhaps it has been in this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Is there a way we can drill down to just the specifics of Nithsdale?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Dorwood. I think absolutely we get your point as well noted. When we originally started with going through the area committees and the targets were picked, we were clear that there would be some areas that was on that we didn't have the specific area committee detail on them areas. What we did make a commitment to was trying to look through the service plans for this financial year and start to break that down with the teams that we've got. So that was made very clear at the original meeting. It was their chair on the back of that, and I think we're working towards that. Play Parks is an example. So when we see, as we progress through the year and we come back to the committee, we should start to see a more localised performance report coming in. But that was made round about all the committees. It was made, there was some challenges around it, not having the data, and we're cleansing that, and we will be more specific as time moves on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. You want back in, Councillor Dorbert?
That's not a problem, Chair, thank you. What about the IT system? You haven't answered that question.
I think I'll bring Sandra in specifically on this, but it was indeed there has been a gap in the community protections IT system coverage, which is reflected in the report, which is now back up and running. It's being repopulated by the team at present, and we're mindful of your comments, Councillor Dorward. I'll bring Sandra in just to see if she has any specifics about the paper systems that have essentially been kept going over the course of the year.
Excuse me, thank you, if I may, Chair. Yeah, apologies for the lack of specific information for Nithsdale. In paragraph 4.15, you will see that we did manually collate the figures for Dumfries and Galloway as a whole. So that number is in there. So the 210 inspections have been done. So we did gather the information, and we have been gathering it quarterly for Pentana as the year went on manually. So the information is there. The job now that we have our new system in place, and it's only just in the last couple of months actually been operational, our job now is to populate the figures backwards for the year that we didn't have any system there.
Thank you, Sandra. You okay with that, Councillor Dorward?
I'm afraid not. I don't understand why people can't keep different records in different boxes for different areas. I get you've got a resourcing issue with the team. It's not a blame thing. I'm just asking the question. I don't understand why that can't be done, because since time immemorial we have kept records on paper. It's very easy to do that. You just divide the region into the areas that it's divided into, and put a mark down. That's it. I don't see why that couldn't have been done, and I think that's it's not a blame thing, Chair. I'm just quite disappointed that we as a council aren't able to keep basic manual records and actually reflect them at this committee, because we should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Your points are noted, Councillor Dorward. Any other member questions? Oh, Councillor Hislop.
Chair, it's going back to 4.12 on page 20, the percentage of play park equipment. Could you explain the last sentence to me? If you remove the piece of equipment, does it count towards the percentage or not? Because if you count it and then remove it, I just don't understand what it's removed from.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Hislop. So my understanding is if it's removed, it doesn't add to the statistics, but I can get full clarity on that for the team and feed it back. Once we've removed that item, it's not classed as needing a repair. Thank you.
So does that mean to say, right, that's no working, we'll take it away and that'll boost our percentage because it's not there? So the public are missing out on equipment because, and it's hidden in a good statistic of 97% being able to be used, but it's 97% of 4 pieces of equipment rather than 97% of the 5 that should be there. And we're losing out in that one. It looks like it's hiding bits that might be broken.
I get what you're saying, Councillor Hislop. Will come in again, Alan?
Excuse me, stop. Apologies. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So yeah, I think it's a valid point. I think probably moving forward, taking up on that point, maybe what we could do is, because I don't think it's hiding the statistics for us. I think more importantly, the guys are just they don't report on it because it's removed. Maybe what would be worthwhile looking at is for over the 12-month period, the amount of items that we've removed could be added to the statistics. Here would be a recommendation from myself. Thank you.
Thanks for that. You happy with that, Councillor Hislop? Councillor Stitt.
Thank you, Chair. It's 4.11 about graph details about bin collections. It says there that the biggest one's resources, but the second biggest one's vehicle issues. Is the vehicle issues this us, and the fleet's not fit for the road, or it just continuous breakdowns, or do we no keep supply vehicles that would help with collections if we're...
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Stitt. So, after, obviously, people, the assets are an issue that we've got. I think it's worth noting that where we are, we're moving towards the period where we're going to be looking at the refreshing of the RCV fleet. So they're at that stage that they are picking up more repairs, but there's a programme of replacement in place for that moving forward. I think where we are, we don't hold what we would see as a bank of vehicles, just due to the cost of what there would be. The unfortunate position we're in is we've got vehicles off-road. We need to then bring in, if it's got to be off-road for a period of time, we bring in a leased vehicle for a hired vehicle for a short period of time, and that at times then brings us to a day lost of where we are with some of the stats. What I would add, albeit that the stats are showing justifying and often clear exposure about the challenges that we've got. Our uptake rate within the report here today shows it's a significant success at over 98% on that. So I think it'll always be a challenge that we've got. The biggest challenge around about breakdowns is our geography. So once we lose a vehicle, we know that out with the area that we've got, it becomes a real challenge about how we move them vehicles round about and make it and catch back up. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alan. You happy with that, Councillor Stitt?
Aye, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. It's on page 21, 4.21, and it talks about the road customer defect reporting development. I think one of the frustrations of communities and those that are reporting is that there's no real timeline being given as to when these defects are going to actually get repaired. Is it possible to bring that into the system? The other one is on 4.22, and that's DGC buses. Have we got a situation resolved that goes out by Kirkton, Kirkmahoe up to Wallace Hall for school children?
Thank you, Councillor Wood. So, Karen, do you want to take these?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wood. Chair, if it's okay, I'll bring in Ian Dalrymple just to pick up on the timescales associated with roads defect repairs. That work is now starting to fold into the new Fix My Street system. So if it's okay, I'll hand over to Ian and then I can pick up the question in terms of the 246. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Karen. So every single customer reported defect that comes through Fix My Street is ultimately assessed by one of our inspectors who has went through the risk-based approach training. We aim to assess every customer reported defect within 20 days. Once the defect has been assessed, it will be given a priority rating from P1 to P5, with P1 being the highest priority for a repair and P5 being no further action required, because not every single defect we get reported does actually meet the criteria for intervention. So we do currently assess every defect. Now, once a defect is been assessed, you should know on Fix My Street that we have got, it will be updated with the priority rating that we've given it from like the P1 to P5. Maybe it's possibly something we need to do a bit to educate members of the public about what the priority scores actually mean, is what I would say there.
Councillor Wood, Councillor Wood, are you happy with that response for that particular issue you raised?
Chair, I'll wait and see. It's okay. When I get feedback from the communities that I'll know exactly whether it's working or not. But thank you for that part.
Thank you. And Karen, you on the next point?
Thank you, Thank you, Chair. And just if I can just add in terms of Fix My Street, so we're continuing to work on our comms and around that, and you know, ensure that members of the public and communities and organisations are aware of Fix My Street and the powerful tools that has in it in terms of updating, in terms of defects reported. In terms of the 246 and the transport to Wallace Hall Academy, particularly from the White Sands in Dumfries, following the summer holidays this year. Work is still ongoing, Councillor Wood, in terms of that, so the transport team are working very closely with the Wallace Hall team as well as the operator on that route to look at various options. You will be aware, Councillor Wood, that myself and the Gordon Bryce met with the community at the public meeting at the beginning of March, which was very positive. We came away with some elements to consider and look at. We continue to be in discussions with the Parent Council and there is a potentially date to still be confirmed, but a further meeting with the Parent Council and parents within the next couple of weeks to look at those aspects. But as we have been doing, happy to keep certainly ward members and other members impacted up to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Wood, are you content with that response?
Yes, in part, but I think that there's a genuine concern from parents because time is running out now before we get in, the summer holidays and then the new intake. So it would be really good to hear how we get on with that meeting that's been proposed in the next fortnight as suggested. So thank you for that so far. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Wood. And as Karen has said, she'll keep ward members up to speed on that ongoing issue. So actually, Councillor Slate, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring Councillor Lowe in first, only because she's first time, and then I'll get straight to you. So Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, Chair. It's referring back to page 21 and the Fix My Street, and I'm finding that where the categories there, the reports are going through very clearly, but there are some things which the public and ourselves are trying to report, and we've been told we need to use Fix My Street, but there isn't really a category, so you have to get the best fit. So if people are putting that in saying this isn't the right category, but I need to report this, is it possible to expand the actual detail of the category so people can click on what they're trying to report, rather than it sitting there, maybe not get picked up because it's not a particular item? But it's something the public have been saying to me is I don't know how to report this because there's not a box to tick. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Before I put that to an officer, do you have any indication what the lacking in categories are? What the situation is where people cannot, because to say we could expand on the categories, they would have to know what they need to expand. So have you got any idea of what that is?
Well, I mean, one example is somebody was trying to report a fault with a bridge where the stones are falling down into the river below, but there isn't a particular section for bridges. And that it's like it had to go in as a road report, but it was actually quite urgent.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I'll go over to Karen for that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Lowe. Thanks for your comments. The Fix My Street system, we're continuing to monitor and look at ways to improve that system as it evolves. So more than happy for the team to pick up specific discussions with members in terms of any items missing. Currently, Fix My Street is only roads defects and street lighting. It doesn't cover bridges. So if there is an issue with bridges, in terms of, as you're saying, perhaps part of the walls are deteriorating, then that would be reported through normal processes through the contact centre, either online or by telephone, and for elected members it would be through the EMES system. As we develop the system, we will look to add on other elements which may include bridges going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Karen. Are you happy with that response, Councillor Lowe?
Yes, thank you.
Again, I'm going to that first-time speaker in Councillor Slater. I apologise. I'm not overlooking you. She says I'm letting first time in. So, Councillor Ferguson.
I'm just putting it in the public forum here. It's a question I've already asked in the senior leadership team of the department. How are we recording Fix My Street statistics with EMES? Now, I know the answer, but other members are probably wanting. How do we account for Fix My Street in our normal reporting processes? So are we going to report separately Fix My Street and EMES as separate issues, or are we going to try and aggregate them up so we know where we are?
Karen?
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Thank you, Chair. I think I've picked up on that correctly. So as members are aware, we have now moved to a one system approach through Fix My Street for any roads defects. Must go through that avenue. So it's one way in, one way out. We will look at a way to monitor and measure the reports that are coming through Fix My Street, from the launch, official launch on the 1st of April as we move forward. And we will also continue to monitor EMES because that should now see a significant drop in elected members, community council and MPMSP inquiries through that system because, as I say, it is a one-way in, one-way out system. So looking to monitor both going forward just to ensure that we capture all that detail and we can look at a way of providing that information back to members. Thank you.
Good to come back in, Chair. Thanks. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, but we don't have a KPI for Fix My Street. We have for EMES. So we're going to have to introduce one or amalgamate the two, however do it. So is that a piece of work we're going to have to take on over the coming period here so that when we get this time next year sitting looking at this, whoever that might not be us, we would actually be able to see a whole year's stats that apply to Fix My Street or in the 6-monthly update or whatever it would be.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Ferguson, and apologies, I should have said. So the service is progressing with our service plans, which will include KPIs going forward for 26-27, which will be reported to E&I Committee on the 9th of June. As part of that, that's one of the elements that the team are looking at in terms of ensuring that there's that very clear I guess scrutiny over Fix My Street as it progresses, and then that will allow us year on year to monitor that. Thank you.
Happy with that, Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is in the meantime, we then get complacent when we see the number of EMESs dropping because they're getting reported somewhere else. And at the end of the day, this is a reporting system, it's not a fixing system. Right? So Fix My Street doesn't physically do what's on the label, it just records what needs to be fixed. Get my drift.
Absolutely. So, Councillor Slater, thank you for being patient. I'll call you in now.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 20 and it's a P412. It's regarding Oakfield Drive, the play park. A few months ago there, the goalposts there are pretty worn out as such, and one obviously been slightly damaged and was taken away, but I was promised at that time that new goalposts would be fitted to the park. I just wonder if there's any movement in that or when they may be replaced. Thank you.
I will let an officer in, I'll let Alan in on that, but these are ward issues that you should really take offline, but I think Alan's nodding his head, so he's quite happy to answer you.
Sorry, Chair, I was just going to say I'll take that offline, so apologies for that.
Thank you, Alan. Right, you okay with that, Councillor Slater? Alan will look into that. So, do we have any other? Councillor Hislop.
I'm looking for a sugary peg here. Customer defect reporting. Just wondered, are we picking up through Fix My Street the historical reports? And out of that, how much or what's the performance that we have for gully cleaning, for drains? Because there seems to be a good number of drains that you used to see a lorry going up and down, sucking out the sludge or whatever it was, cleaning them, and I haven't seen any for a long time. Or has that been kind of stopped?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. I will bring Ian in to provide a little bit more detail, particularly in terms of the historical reports, so that he can provide, as I say, accurate detail in terms of how far we've gone back in relation to defects when we've moved systems. In terms of the gully machines, members will be aware that in the last couple of months we've purchased 2 new specific gully machines. We are now got a programme in place in order to progress the emptying and the clearing of those, and then what we're going to do is move to a cyclical system right across the region in terms of those. Again, that will be picked up. I'm keen that that's picked up through KPIs, so members can clearly see that in the future service plan. But Chair, if it's okay, I'll bring Ian in just to pick up on the detail in terms of those. Thank you.
Aye, Chair. So yes, regarding defects that were brought across to FIC from when we transitioned from FIC to Fix My Street, it was 12 months worth of historic defects that were brought across. There was a lot of work happening in the background to make sure the system was up to date and cleansing out any defects that had been repaired and getting the status of the defects correct. But 12 months is what we brought across. We have got the 2 new machines. We've got a limited number of operators training them at the moment. We are looking to get additional operators within each of our 5 operational depots trained on the new Vector jetting units. We have started to move to a more cyclical programme, where we're trying to tackle our first few towns with them. I believe we started that in Langham, and there's additional towns that we've got an earmark for the next round of cyclical. While we're doing that cyclical programme, we are trying to do additional asset capturing as well. So while the machine's out emptying a gully, the operator is assessing, is it 100% full, is it blocked, or is it 50%, is it 20% full? And what we're trying to do with that is be better informed with information, not only location, but how full do the gullies get, how quickly do they fill it with gratitis, etc., so that we can better understand, do we need to go to a gully once every year, 3 years, 5 years, and we'll try and build that into a more comprehensive cyclical programme as we move forward. What that does mean is, because we're doing the asset capturing, some of the gully emptying is taking a wee bit longer, but I think in the long run, having that information there will pay dividends. But it's something we'll work towards over the course of the next few years.
Thank you, Ian. You happy with that, Councillor Hislop?
Chair, it was just to welcome that last wee bit about the, looking at them, how often do they need to be done? Because the old KPI was everyone had to be done on average once a year. So if you do 1 10 times, 9 don't get done at all. But that new way of working where they'll be able to identify when on average they require to be done, I think it'll be a big improvement.
On that particular point, okay, and Councillor Stitt.
I know we're getting 2 new vehicles. Are they got to be base centre, or has there got to be one for the east and one for the west, so they're operating like in Nithsdale, Stuart, Wigginshire, Nithsdale, and in Nithsdale? Because we wouldn't like to think there's got to be 2 based here and empty.
So, Ian, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, I can come in there. Yes, so you're correct. There's one based in the east, shared between our Nithsdale and Annandale and Nithsdale depot, and then there's one out west shared between Stranraer, Bangkok and Stuartry depot.
Thank you for
Thanks,
that.
Chair.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to bring it up here. I've brought it up in many forums, and unfortunately I'm going to get a little bit parochial. But on the roads reporting, it's actually how the council's reporting to us as elected members. So we get that report on a Friday that tells us what's happening in our ward. Now, I can count on one hand over the past couple of months how many things have actually been set to be achieved in North West Dumfries, and I was wondering if there's an anomaly in there, because it's certainly not because the roads are in a great condition, and I just can't understand how we always seem to have nothing to be done, but yet some wards have quite an extensive amount on their list. And the other thing I need to pick up, again, and it's getting a wee bit parochial, is that for a while we've had an issue with putting in a bus shelter at a bus stop. Now, we were promised that this would be done by the end of March, and it's still not been done. Now, we've had to jump through hoops to actually get to that point. And now I can't understand why, again, there's been a further delay when we actually have the bus shelter and we have the agreement from Wheatley to put it on their land. So I was wondering if I can maybe get a bit of an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. I think your first question, although sounded parochial, could actually just translate to all the wards across, just asking a sort of question that could be relevant to every ward. So I'll turn to Karen for just, is it for that particular point or both points? Right, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Thanks for your comments in terms of the weekly roads report. I know in the main members do find that very helpful, but I am aware that there have been some challenges recently in terms of some of the works not allocated to the correct ward, which hasn't been helpful for members, so I apologise in relation to that. Specifically in terms of your ward, Councillor Stevenson, I'm more than happy to pick up a conversation with Stuart and Ian and the comms team to look at specifics there. You know, any work being progressed within your ward should be allocated within that weekly update. So happy to pick that up separately and come back to you. But likewise, you know, if other members have kind of any issues within the wards or the weekly reports that you're seeing, you know, more than happy to pick those up as well. In terms of the bus stop, I am sorry to hear that hasn't been progressed. And again, more than happy to pick that up separately and provide you with an update in terms of where we're at with that and when the installation is anticipated. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Stevenson, are you happy with those responses?
Yeah, I am, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, and just, you know, like I say, I'm not getting parochial about it, but if you look at back through the past maybe a couple of months for North West Dumfries and that Friday report, there's been absolutely nothing on it. There's been 1 week where we've had something and nothing else for months and months. So quite happy to take offline though. Thank you.
Thank you for that. No, I've got Councillor Stitt, I've got you down, but you've already, was that your question? That's fine. So Councillor Slater, you wish back in again?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's actually just to thank the Roads Department for jet spraying a lot of the area around about Georgeside and Colside. They were badly needed, I must admit, and people are quite happy. It's made quite a difference to the road. It's not made it perfect, but it's made it a lot easier to drive on. So it was just to say thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. I'm sure Karen will take that back to all those. You want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slater. Yeah, happy to take that back to the team, appreciating the positive comments. Thank you.
No, thank you. It is, and part of our scrutiny is also, it's always a good thing to point out the positive as well as finding any negatives that we do. So thank you for that, Councillor Slater. So is that us all done for questions for this agenda item? So we'll move to recommendations. Members were asked to scrutinise the performance of the selected success measures and projects as summarised in paragraphs 4.4 to 4.27, and scrutinise we did. Thank you. Move to agenda item 5, Nithsdale Area Committee Discretionary Budget 26-27. So this report requests members to agree the key priorities, allocations and processes for the Area Committee Discretionary Budget. The total budget available this year is £144,940. And the officers have presented a recommendation in Appendix 2 based on the recent member seminar discussions and updated processes within Appendix 3 for member consideration. So we've got Derek Hextall available on Teams to assist with the discussions. Good morning, Derek. Do you have anything else to add to the report?
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. No, nothing further to add. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'll open up to members. Members have any questions, any comments? Vice Chair.
Thanks, Provost. I have 3 questions, if you like. And the first one's maybe more of a plea or a request rather than a question for Derek. Some of you will know that over the years there's a small community group in Kirkconnell and Killahome, the Brighten Up Kirkconnell and Killahome group, that do fantastic work in their area. They've won numerous awards on a very regular basis, and the success has been such that this year, just a few weeks ago, they were invited to represent Scotland in the Britain in Bloom competition. And I met with Fiona and the group, and our local land street services, road services all offered assistance in kind. But as usual, the challenge is funding. So my appeal is, they could, if we agree Appendix 2, they could apply to the floral grant system for £1,500. But my plea to you would be, could we, on this year only, on the basis that this group are representing not only Dumfries and Galloway, but Scotland, that we could top slice £5,000 from the floral planting budget, or find £5,000 within the delegated budget we have to support this group, and to make sure that not only do they see our support, but they get an opportunity to make Kirkconnell and Killahome look really special when the judging takes place on the 7th of August. So that would be my first plea to you. And maybe, I don't know, Provost, could you see whether or no members would be willing to support such a proposal?
Councillor Stitt.
I think what Jim spoke for, I think it's a great nomination, because I think for a wee bit like Kirkconnell and Killahome to represent Scotland in a UK final, I think it's absolute, and I think we should try and find the funding for summer if possible.
Sorry, Councillor Baretti, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Provost. I would agree with that ward member there. That would be a useful support mechanism, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, just to support that, I think it shows that we're supporting people who are actually doing something for their communities. It's a positive, and I think we should be, if we are seen to encourage them, hopefully that will encourage other communities to do similar things, and where we can, we should be supporting things that are taking, lifting us up a bit. So let's reach for the skies this time.
I think there was a song there. Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I'm equally supportive of this, but I may have found the money. I'm not sure, but if we look at page 32 under N10, where they're talking about community food providers training and skills fund, you have 10 organisations that are being, or suggested, allocated £1,000 per organisation. Could we not bring these 10 organisations together and reduce that £10,000? It's called working together. Is that possible?
I think you would have to speak to the 10 organisations separately to see if they wish to come together. But I mean, it's a great idea, but I think it would be up to these organisations, Councillor Wood. But you are in support of Councillor Dempster's proposal?
Yes, I support that. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
I'm broadly supportive, but where are we taking it from? Because we didn't have a slush fund anywhere. Sorry, a reserve anywhere. So what are the other parts of this we've already discussed and looked at and everything else, are we going to cut?
If it will help, Provost.
Yes, please.
We have the opportunity that Kirkconnell and Killahome could bid to the Community Planting Fund anyway, so we're only looking for £3,500, and we were £3,000 undersubscribed. to the defibrillator fund last year. So, and probably best ask Derek, of course. I'm no managing the fund, that's Derek's job. But I think what I would want to do, if members are in favour of this proposal, just simply delegate to Derek to bring a proposal back to members, or tell us now where he could find £5,000.
Sorry, just before you let Derek in, was there money carried over from the DFIB from last year fund? So there is money
Yes.
carried over? Right.
Yes. So I'll move over to Derek to help us in this situation. Derek, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, members, for this proposal. And clearly it's a matter for members to determine. The proposals outlined in the budget, in the Appendix 2, is just to assist members in allocating this fund. And just to be clear, that all of the underspends that were brought forward from last year are included within these budgets. So we have already reallocated the underspends, so there is no additional money sitting waiting to be reallocated. However, Councillor Dempster is absolutely correct. In the DFIB budget last year was underspent, but within the recommendations that are before you today, we are recommending that this remains the same level as last year, so that there may be a few £1,000s you can take from that. I think from memory it was about £5,000 that we did allocate from that last year. And similarly from the community planting fund, last year I think there was a total budget of around £16,000, and that was £4,000 underspent last year as well, hence a reduction to 12. So you could potentially look to take a bit of money there. So I think if members were minded to support the £5,000 from Kirkconnell and Killahome, or to make a direct award to Kirkconnell and Killahome Brighton Up group, we could potentially just top slice the £12,000 from the community planting fund to allow that allocation to be made now, because clearly they'll need to buy plants now if they're looking to plant up the community for the August event. And potentially, if the other small grant schemes are underspent, a report could come back to the next area committee where we maybe look to reallocate it. If the community planting fund is looking like it's going to be oversubscribed, we could maybe then look to reallocate funds then, unless members are minded to potentially reduce the defibrillator fund at this moment in time, bearing in mind a number of projects were supported last year with the maintenance. So it's unclear at this stage whether they will come back in, and is there still the need for that maintenance element at the level we've recommended. So there's a couple of options there for members to consider. My recommendation at this stage, if the £5,000 is what we're looking at, is probably just to ring fence it from that £12,000, and then potentially bring back another report to members should we see any significant underspends in other areas as we move forward.
Thank you for that, Derek. That has made it very clear. I'll put it out to members. I think it would be cleaner to take it from that, but it's open to how members feel about that. Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, well, as I say, I'm broadly in agreement. But we're setting a precedent here, and I'm worried about that, because it could be in for the Summerhill Highland Games next year. I could turn up here and say I want £2,000 for that.
And we would consider that too.
That's exactly, well, the thing is, that's exactly right. So I think what I'm trying to say here is, yes, in principle, yes, we should support it, right? But leave it to the officers to identify the money, and then delegate that from here to officer delegation in conjunction with the 3 ward councillors to OK the spend, so that it's no affecting anybody else's grant, it's not taking off any other service area. That's my real worry here, because this is like turning the clock back 15 years ago, because Nithsdale Council used to take hours over one agenda item, and it was these small grants, and we've got away from that, and I just worry this is taking us back there. So, in agreement, but can we delegate from here the ward officer or the responsible officer and the 3 ward members to come up with it, as long as the funding doesn't impinge on anybody else?
I'm more than happy with that, but it's bound to affect somebody if everybody wants to bid for money and there's not enough there. That's always the worry. And what I did say at the outset was, this is a really unusual situation. This is a community group that's representing Scotland. It's not as if you can have a group going in next week asking for a couple of £1,000 because of a special event on. And I think Derek did say initially, if we were to remove £5,000 from the community planting fund, then that's clean. That leaves a £7,000 remaining that other community groups can apply for. We could reduce the amount that other groups could bid for this year. And Derek also volunteered to bring a report to the next area committee of an underspend to top that other arrangement or other fundings up. And that's what I hope members would agree to. Understand that it's unusual, understand that it's moving from a budget, but it's a special set of circumstances, probably.
Thank you for that, Councillor Dempster. Tracy, Governance wishes to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just following on from what Councillor Ferguson said. There is obviously a set out list of eligibility requirements as well. So I think if members, it's obviously in members' hands whether they wish to go down this route or not, but you haven't got the information in front of you today as part of your papers to make this decision, but obviously it's in members' hands if you wish to delegate that to officers to go away and find that funding. But I would also include in that the caveat that officers would need to make sure the eligibility requirements are there for the group, that they are following our principles and what you're agreeing today, and ring fence that money subject to the group meeting the criteria that is set by the committee today.
Yes, and I'm pleased, Provost, that Derek said it would need to be given today because they need to plan for this, but the monitoring report would of course be required as normal. It would just be a grant to make sure they can get off the road and get running with their project, and then the monitoring would come along in due course.
Thank you, Tracy, for that, and thanks, Vice Chair, for that. And I understand, Councillor Ferguson, where you're coming from. I've got no issue, me personally. I know it's a whole member thing, but supporting this, and it also coming out of wherever it comes out. If we delegate it to officer, to Derek, to go away along with the ward members, as long as there's the understanding, I think that that's going to be done with immediate effect, with consideration to making sure that they cover all the relevant statutory requirements. That's what I was looking for there, Jim, as a group. So as long as it's not halting that process, that's all. So, Councillor Ferguson.
Having represented the council at the Scotland in Bloom, or whatever they call it nowadays, there's been a number of organisations in the Fries and Galloway who have actually wanted men on to represent Scotland, including the one that you're looking for funding for in the past, and one a very small one down in Wigtonshire. So it's no unusual, it's not the first time, but I totally support, if we're going to represent Scotland and the Fries and Galloway on the national stage, then we should be supportive. Okay, but I'm just saying, tread warily and let's make sure that we actually do it right.
No, absolutely. We need all the I's dotted, T's crossed. But the only issue, I don't have no issue with any of this. The only thing I have is the time aspect of it, because they're going to need to purchase plants, plant plants, etc. Councillor Dorward, do you want him?
Thanks, Chair. I think time is of the essence. We are totally supportive of Councillor Dempster's proposal. I think I'm noting that at 4.2, page 25, we carried forward over 21,000 from last year in terms of unspent monies. And I'm not suggesting that will happen this year. There'll be a surplus, but we carry forward most years' money from the grants. That to me makes things more straightforward, and I think what Tracy said in terms of governance is very apt as well. But the eligibility criteria are very straightforward here. They're not that complicated. Support community groups to plant and maintain civic areas, including bedding areas and hanging baskets. It's just about shifting the money, the funding. And I think what I'm hearing from my colleagues is we're broadly agreeable to that. We do a top slice. I think that's the cleanest, as you said already, Chair, way forward. And it makes perfect sense. We could debate it for hours. That's what we do sometimes. We go down the bike shedding route, but I think we should stop now and say, what I'm getting is we're agreeable to it, take it forward and ask officers to work that out with the elected members from the ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Is anyone else otherwise minded? No?
Thank you for that, Provost, and thank members. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, because I'm sure that'll be appreciated by the Cornwall home folk. I have a couple of other questions now. One's quite...
You're not asking for any more money, though, are you?
just a wee bit. And maybe it's a parochial thing, but so there's an issue for me about an arrangement that the council entered into with Transport Scotland. When Sanker High Street was being done up a few years ago, new street furniture, paving slabs, etc., they agreed to put up, Transport Scotland agreed to put up hanging basket poles, double hanging basket poles in the main street in Sanker, or High Street as it's called. And the decision at the full council when the budget was set was to remove the nursery and planting. So we have entered into an agreement with Transport Scotland, the council did, that we would provide hanging baskets if they put up the street furniture. So I would hope that, Provost, you would ask Derek to look into the arrangement to see if that still exists, what kind of arrangement we have, and if it doesn't exist, can Derek be delegated to find from the planting application money that's available a bid for 8 hanging baskets for Sanker High Street? I know we've got an arrangement for Dumfries, a budget agreement for £20,000, and I wouldn't want to dip into their money, but clearly we are now as a council securing hanging baskets and other planter materials for Dumfries, so it would seem logical if it were possible within the budget arrangements when it's here that 8 hanging baskets be procured for Sanker from what would Sanker be applying for. But I would like Derek to investigate first of all, Provost, what the arrangement has been in the past and whether that arrangement still stands. Because clearly if we don't do anything, we'll have 4 standing units in the middle of Sanker High Street with no plants hanging on them during the summer months.
Thank you for that, Councillor Dempster. I'll go over to Derek. I think it's very apt that Derek looks into this, that particular previous arrangement, if indeed it still stands.
Yeah,
over to you, Derek.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Dempster. Yeah, as you'll be aware, as part of our discussions around finalising the recommendations to come forward, we did reach out to various colleagues. My understanding is that because the council nursery is now closed, there is no facility for us to get hanging baskets. And my understanding is that even in the Dumfries, with the recent budget decision, there will still be no hanging baskets. It will be bedding plants and planters that are being produced. So the council, as I understand it, doesn't have the facility for hanging baskets. However, I'm happy to look into that historical arrangement with colleagues to see if that is still being met. Otherwise, I am sure myself and the local ward officer can work with a relevant local group to empower them potentially to secure appropriate hanging baskets with an application to the Community Planting Fund, which hopefully would allow them to purchase 8 hanging baskets and potentially more, if that would be acceptable, Chair.
Thanks very much, Provost. Certainly acceptable to me, Provost. Are you happy with that?
Oh no, I'm happy with that. If it's not in place, but it is up to the community groups, and if Derek and the local ward officer works with the community groups, then they can apply to this funding. So
that's brilliant. Thank you for that. And as long as you investigate that for me, Derek, to see what the historic arrangements were and if they're still in place. And the last thing, Provost, again, provided members are agreeing, it's about the Christmas lights arrangement. We agreed to provide Christmas lights last year in Sanker, Kirkconnell and Thornhill. And when they were installed, some of them weren't working and it finished up, were never working. And I think in Kirkconnell there were 4 different columns that were simply never lit. And I'm hoping that if we agree to this a Christmas light funding, that, and I suppose the same will apply to Dumfries Town Centre if that members have experienced the situation where certain motifs don't work. We really can't have that. There's no point in us entering into a contract to have 12 Christmas lights illuminated if 4 of them never are. And by the time these things are reported through the EMES channel and somebody gets round to looking at them, the window for having them lit has passed. So I would be hoping that Derek would be delegated to speak to officers to come up with some arrangement whereby if these motifs are reported as being defective, that they're actually fixed rather than just being left unlit for the period of time that we're hiring them. You wouldn't do that in your own personal circumstances where you would hire a couple of lights and it just never worked, and it would be it's no a good arrangement currently. And I'd be hoping that if we enter into this agreement that we could find some way ensuring that an arrangement in place where quickly these lights are reinstated if that's the case. Thanks, Provost. Thank you,
Councillor Dempster. I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect the lights that we've purchased actually work. So if members are otherwise minded, delegate. Councillor Ferguson, you want to come in first?
Yeah, I'm a wee bit worried that everything is getting delegated to Derek. We should actually be saying it delegated to officers, because their manager will decide whose workload can actually accommodate it. It's not up to us. That's an operational matter, I would suggest.
I'm sure Derek's really happy that you've just stood up for him there, so less on his workload, yeah. No, but you're right. Delegate to officers to make sure ahead of time that these things are actually all working instead of the big switch on and only half of them work. I think Derek wants to come in.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thanks for that, Councillor Ferguson. I do notice Ian Dalrymple is still on the call, so may want to come in. We have had discussions with the relevant team. Previously, the roads team used to manage the Christmas lights, and I understand this is changing to the street lighting service to manage, and there is an understanding and an appreciation of the issues that Councillor Dempster has highlighted there. And unfortunately, just due to the nature of the installations, sometimes the defects and the issues are not realised until they're actually switched on because of the various water ingress, etc. that happens. But the service has committed to looking at a single point of contact out with the EMES system just to ensure a quicker response time, given the very short period of time the Christmas lights are actually on for. So there is the service that are looking at how we can better respond to member feedback on that, and indeed from communities as well. So happy to give that assurance to Councillor Dempster that the service is aware of that and will be looking to put something in place for this year.
Thank you for that assurance, Derek. I wonder if you've seen Ian still on the call, whether he has anything he'd like to add.
Nothing really. All I would say is we've had officers in here that have managed the Christmas lights. Obviously, street lighting falls under my remit. But there is a transition period happening, and both the roads team and the street lighting team are working together to make sure a smooth transition and nothing really drops off the radar. So all going according to plan. We're all under one roof, so we'll make it happen. Hopefully things go as smooth as possible.
Thank you for that, Ian, and thank you, Derek. So any other comments on this paper? We'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to note that 312,000 was allocated to area committee discretionary budgets in 26-27 as part of the council budget. Note the total budget available to Nithsdale Area Committee for 26-27 will be 144,940 as detailed in paragraphs 4.1 to 4.2, and agree to allocate funding for the key projects and initiatives detailed in Appendix 2 and the process and criteria to deliver them detailed in Appendix 3. And although we've had some added planting issues, I don't think that needs to change recommendations at all because we've delegated that. So that's great. Thank you, members. Thank you, Derek. Sorry, Tracy. Yes, it'll be minuted, yeah. I was meaning no change to the recommendations, but if we minute that member decision, that would be... Is that enough, Tracy?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I was just scribbling here, so I've just wrote, if members are happy with this, that same recommendation as 2.3, but then subject to the allocation of any community planting funding of 12,000 being reduced to 7,000, with the top slice of 5,000 being ring-fenced to support Brighton Up Kelholme Group towards the representation of our region at the Britain in Bloom 2026, and for the distribution and oversight of this funding to be delegated to officers to ensure compliance with our strategic framework.
Members happy with that?
One very small. It's Kirkconnell and Killahome. You better not exclude Kirkconnell.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Tracy. Thanks, Derek. So, agenda item 6, Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Budget 26-27. So this report requests members agree the grant application process, priorities, eligibility and criteria for the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Budget 26-27 for Nithsdale. Recognising the continued need to tackle poverty and inequalities in our communities, our council agreed on an allocation of £180,000 to be used by local area committee to provide support to organisations who are working to mitigate and tackle this at a local level with some of our most vulnerable residents. Members are being asked to consider the key priorities, eligibility and criteria, and to establish a fund which will provide support across Nithsdale, focusing the fund on key priority areas based on discussions from the recent member seminar. The total budget available within Nithsdale is £82,248.62, and if agreed, would see recommendations for awards brought to this committee in September. So again, Derek's on Teams to assist members. Do you got anything to add, Derek?
Nothing to add, Chair.
Thank you. I'll move out to members for any questions, any comments. Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Derek, for the report. No issues with the recommendations. Just note at 4.2, as again we had an underspend in this fund, which surprises me given that we have severe issues with poverty across Nithsdale area. How can we maximise, and how can we encourage, relevant agencies, relevant groups to apply for this, Derek? Any ideas? Thank you. Sorry, I'm not put on the spot, but I think we need to actually make sure that we spend all of this. It's absolutely vital that we do. Thank you.
Through yourself.
Yeah,
Chair,
no, over
okay?
to you, Derek.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Dorward. Yes, so the majority of the underspend that has actually came back in there is from projects or organisations that remodelled how they were delivering support. And so some of that underspend was from projects that didn't progress beyond sort of January time, so they only delivered over a few months. So that's the majority of that underspend coming back in there. I think because Nithsdale Area Committee have kept their priorities relatively consistent now for a few years, there is a greater understanding in communities of what the fund can actually support, and that assists officers in being able to target and support organisations to give them some case studies on what's been supported previously and how their projects can potentially fit into that now, and be more successful in getting that funding. So ward officers across the Nithsdale area are, will support organisations to bring forward proposals, but we've also got a bank of examples of the types of projects now that have been supported. So I'm fairly confident, Councillor Dorward, that we will get a higher number of applications coming forward to support, some of the most difficult projects that we're probably going to see at this committee going forward. So hopefully that gives you a degree of assurance that we are confident that we will be able to support organisations to bring forward relevant proposals to the September committee.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Derek, for that. Really useful. It's probably more about durability then than people not applying. That's probably the thing we have to crack. But no, I'm totally confident that you and your ward officer colleagues can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any Councillor Walters?
Thanks very much, Chair. I think Derek might have just answered this, actually. I was just looking at the eligibility and the criteria. I just wanted to check to see if there had been any changes since last year. But from what Derek just said, it didn't appear to be. But can I just check? Just get confirmation of that. Thanks.
Over to you, Derek.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Walters. No, there's been no significant change. I think I've tidied up some of the language, but there's been no significant changes to the eligibility.
You happy with that, Councillor Walters?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much. And I know we've been through a seminar and we've thrashed this all out and everything else. The only bit that's worrying me in the recent is we're heading for real problems with fuel and warm hubs. But we've also had huge steps forward in our digital connectivity across the region. There's hardly a place or town or village you can go to where you've not got some of the big companies in there actually in broadband stuff into houses. So I don't think we can take digital connectivity because we're a remote area and there's some places just don't have it yet or a limited type. But I'm just worried here that there's, if it's 10 grand maximum and it's fuel poverty and warm hubs coming in, we haven't got a clue yet what our electricity and gas and oil prices are going to be coming. We've already had one organisation who wrote to me and I passed it to the chief exec and somebody actually contacted them and spoke to them about it, referred them to the fact that this was coming up today. And I'm just, I don't think there's anything we can do about it, but we can't really, I suppose, point to one specific area of this because they're all relative. But I'm just really worried what's going to happen with the oil and gas and electricity prices coming. And the last thing I want is folk not being able to eat because they've had to keep the gas on, or vice versa, or be freezing because they've got to eat. So it's a concern, and I don't know how we've got to deal with it. So I think we just need to be aware of it and take it forward. And my suggestion would be is if there's a massive rise over the next few months, that we should bring it back here and actually have a second look at that. But we have to set the budget, so it's just a fear I've got, Chair. So.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I share that fear. We've got some serious rises in costs, but we can't preempt what they'll be, and we don't know if they will go down or up, but then this is what we have constantly. We don't know what things are going to be like, but yeah, it is a worry. I'm not sure how we tackle that. I can hand that over to Derek to see, but I'm not sure he would know how we can tackle that. You're right, we have to set that budget today and what we are offering to our communities, and I'm not sure how we tackle if this time in 6 months' time the prices have doubled, because it could be. So it's a difficult one.
Thanks, Chair. Happy to come in. Clearly, in the previous report, we have agreed for our community centres, village halls and town halls for utility support, and that's based on a 50% support towards last year's utility costs. So clearly, our community facilities will be supported. Within this report, we are covering fuel poverty and warm hubs to be supported. Now, clearly that won't be until September. I am aware in other area committees, they have ring-fenced some of that money for a small grant scheme that's available now, so that between now and September, if there are issues, people can apply for a small grant. I think in Wigtonshire it was up to £2,000, and it was a budget of, I think it was around £10,000 that was available, just to support immediate need between now and when the larger grants of up to £10,000 would be agreed in September. That is open to members. Clearly, this is part of your discretionary budget as well. And the recommendations we have made is just based on the discussions we have had at seminar and other discussions that officers have had to bring forward. Clearly, it is an evolving and rapidly moving picture, but that might be something that members may wish to consider, as if they are hearing on the ground there are emerging priorities, specifically around fuel poverty, then a small grant scheme is open to you to open. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would just be all of the applications would come in September for members, clearly scored and recommendations made, and for members to then agree at that point. Don't know if that's helpful, Chair, but hopefully it provides a bit more info.
It is helpful to a degree. What do you, I mean, I don't know how we change this. This would be changing everything that we do by adding this small grant system in. Are members minded to do that, or are we just going to keep an eye on it?
Chair, can I come in? I don't think there's anything physically we can actually do right at this moment in time. We certainly need to keep an eye on it, and I would suggest it probably becomes a full council problem if it gets out of hand, because the area committee grants are a drop in the ocean, really, when it comes to the bigger, wider picture.
No, thank you, Councillor Ferguson, but it was right to raise it. We need to keep an eye on this. Councillor Dorward.
I was going to not talk there, but what Councillor Ferguson said is actually the right thing to do. We're dealing with what ifs. We don't know. We can't predict. We don't have a crystal ball, and it's actually a wider full council issue. It's not for us to sit here and it's not, you know, the money we've got is reasonable, but it's not going to deal with, if it's a national crisis, it's not going to deal with that. It's a council issue. Thank you.
No, I agree, but it's also the right thing to do for us to be discussing it and know that we're all aware that this is going to be an issue, or maybe an issue, hopefully not. So, any other members have any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1. Note the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget for 26-27 in the Nithsdale is £82,248.62. Agree the priorities, eligibility and criteria for the Nithsdale Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget 26-27, and agree to open a grant scheme for applications. So, members agreed. Thank you, and thank you, Derek. Agenda item 7, local place plan update and registration. So this report we're asked to agree to add Glencairn, Sanker, Wanlockhead place plans to register. All plans have been community-led, developed through local engagement, and they're all met the legislative and regularity requirements. Senior Planner John Doig is on Teams to answer any member questions. I'll let him in first. Councillor Dempster first, just before I tell you the running order that we're going to do them in, if you don't mind.
Very kind, Provost. I just find out what order they're being considered in, because when the Sanker has been considered, I'll leave the room.
So, John, do you have anything to add to the report first?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do. I've got 2 things to raise. The first is to acknowledge and thank all the communities for their hard work in preparing these plans, as we appreciate the time and challenges involved. Secondly, I would like to make members aware of a change to the report, in that we are removing reference to the Glencairn Local Place Plan. Money Ive Initiative have made a change to the Local Place Plan to that which was originally submitted to the Council for registration. As a result, in order to meet the Local Place Plan legislation, Money Ive Initiative are required to undertake a further 28-day notice period for representations. Thank you.
So we are removing that at the moment, the Glencairn one?
Correct, yes.
Members understand the reasons behind this and happy with the reasons behind this. So thank you. I'm going to do Wanlockhead first after that, and then you can leave after that. So
Wanlockhead first, okay.
Wanlockhead first. So do you have anything to add to the Wanlockhead one, John? No?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, over to members for that particular one. Councillor Barretti.
I'll get in front of my ward colleague here. Yeah, just glad that the Wanlockhead one has come. I think they worked very hard to get this through, and congratulations to the team up there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barretti. Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to Wanlockhead, as some of you may know, I've had cause to travel about the region, Dumfriesshire, recently. It's been extremely enlightening, and Wanlockhead is a lovely, fantastic village with lots of potential. And can I just mention this? The plan itself, the place plan, is fantastic. It recognises the fact that they do need to be perhaps more connected to the rest of this region. And one of the things they mentioned is the Mennick Pass. It's mentioned in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times across the report. And can I just ask, maybe not for this specific committee, but travelling up there, it's almost like travelling through a war zone. There's not potholes, there's craters in the road. And the erosion from the Mennick Burn is absolutely appalling. Traffic lights have been there, I think, for 4 years in some places, and not actually the road issues haven't been dealt with, and I think that's absolutely appalling. And perhaps it's just bringing it to the awareness of my councillor colleagues here, and perhaps you could ask Chair or Vice Chair, maybe that's a conflict of interest for you, Vice Chair, but for the Chair, when are these repairs going to be kicked off? Because 4 years with traffic lights and no repairs is really not good enough. It's something that we need to do something about quite urgently. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I think you're quite right. Our region right across Dumfriesshire is absolutely stunning. So I'm sure you enjoyed all the different villages and towns, and One Look Head is amazing up there. But I'll go over to Fiona, because you can respond to this.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Dorwood. I share your thoughts on the road up there. Thankfully, it is being closed next week to patch some of the craters that you discuss, with a consultant team being brought in to fully, as best as we can, repair the road. So next week the road is actually closed to fill in some of those immediate potholes that you recognise. So work's started.
That's fantastic. Telepathic or what? Or who's telepathic here? Or who's interesting? The other thing there, I know you maybe can't ask that question, but it's just to get it's the erosion. It's the erosion from the burn. You know, it would be really useful to get an update on when work's happening there, because that's the biggest bit of repairing that has to be done, I would suggest. Not being an engineer, but that would be really useful to get an update on that. Thank you.
Yep, I know ward members have been kept updated from the roads team, so I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share that with the wider Nithsdale Area Committee.
You happy with that, Councillor Dorwood? Yeah, thanks, Fiona, for that update. Do we have any? Oh, Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. I'm awfully glad you raised the roads issue, Linda. However, we're here to endorse the place plan, and like my colleague, Councillor Beretti, I think the One Look Head community did a fantastic job. The place plan is absolutely superb, and I fully endorse it. In terms of the road network, to be quite frank, I was intending to bring a notice of motion to full council because the state of the road's so bad. I understand from roads colleagues that an attempt was made to try and find a contractor to repair the road slips, but there were no willing bidders, and the new approach is that a bid will be invited again, or a tender will be invited again, and it will be tied in with other works in the local area to shore up the 3 landslips that are prevalent. And I think Councillor Dorwood's right. I mean, my thoughts on it was they didn't need to go to the moon to look at craters, they just come to One Look Head. But I have taken a number of senior managers on a run up that road to let them see, and I don't expect senior managers to identify defects, but they do need to see the state of the road. It's a route to a national museum, it's a bus route, it's a route to school. And if any ward member in Dumfries and Galloway can show me a worse road, I'll buy them their lunch. And coming behind, no, I'll guarantee you won't, David. And coming closely behind that is the B740. It's not in the place plan. It's not for today. My notice of motion was to ask the council to invite an independent expert to assess the condition of the roads and bring a report back to the council. I think the council officers now are trying to fix the B740. They've got a good scheme of repairs, patching in some places where it's all it's necessary, road renewal where it's necessary, inviting tenders. So I will wait, and I won't submit my notice of motion to the June council, but I may do in the September one if the outcome isn't successful, because it's been such a long time, and the communities, in fact, One Look Head and Sanker community put in a joint complaint, stage 1 and stage 2 complaint about the state of the road. So it's clearly needing done, and I'm glad that my colleague Councillor Dorwood raised that initially. It's needing to be discussed at a high level, and the importance can't be understated. It's a shame that that's taken away from the place plan that we're all looking at. It's a fantastic place plan, but there is an issue here that if communities submit a place plan, we should strive to make sure that we meet their aspirations. And the 9 times the road Mennock is mentioned is clearly part of their aspirations, and we should strive to meet that. So thank you for your time, Provost. Thank you for your time, members. I absolutely endorse the place plan and the discussion about roads, and I'll take my leave until the next agenda item, Provost.
Yeah, quit while you're ahead. Councillor Ferguson?
Part of this conversation should have been raised in the first item on the agenda today, but never mind. Ever the opportunist. It's taken away, though, the debate away from the serious issue and the hard work that these communities have put into this. And I'm just saying, let's move to recommendations, with the exception of the one that one's withdrawn at this stage, and just move it and take it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I don't think we have anyone else otherwise minded. So move to the Sankar one. Anyone have any issues? Anything they want to raise or talk about? So Jim's gone out in a revolving door then, so go and get him back. I'll just move to recommendations. Note that Sankar and Wanlock Head local place plan supporting statements. Agree that the Sankar and Wanlock Head local place plans are registered by the council as local place plans and are added to the local place plan register on the council's website, and note the current position with local place plans in the Nithsdale area as set out in paragraphs 4.5.1. And Tracy, do we need to make any mention of the withdrawal of the Glencairn?
Thanks, Chair. I've just noted here to note that Glencairn local place plan has been amended and as such will be subject to a further 28-day notice period and will be brought back to a future meeting of this committee.
Thank you. Members okay with that? Okay, we'll move to agenda item 8. This is the Provost of Dumfries Annual Report 25-26. This is a new report that's been requested. So it presents the annual activities of the Provost of Dumfries during 25-26. So the report aims to highlight the breadth of the work and the importance of maintaining strong connections with community while supporting the continued development, resilience and positive profile of Dumfries. So I've got Scott McMeekin in the hall. Do you have anything to add, Scott?
Good afternoon, as it is now, members. Nothing to add. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you. So I'll open it out to members for some very positive comments I'm expecting to come in, but all the great work that Maureen and I undertook in the past year. I'll say again. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, it looks like both provosts have been very busy over the last year. Just one question. There used to be a Scottish Provosts sort of association or something where they would meet up and discuss issues, etc. Does that still happen, and do we go to it, or is it more for Lord Provost? Because I always wanted the city-state so we could get a Lord Provost or a Lady Provost.
I'll answer a bit and then take it to Scott. In the previous term that when I was Provost, yes, we used to get invitations all the time, but I never attended any of them. It didn't seem like it was a meeting that we needed to attend. But I'll go over to Scott because he'll know more updates. Because I haven't heard anything recently. I haven't had anything since June last year from that organisation.
No, thanks, Provost. Thanks, Councillor Hislop. We actually cover it just at 4.10 in the report. There's been no meetings and no materials issued over the last year. Obviously, I'm new into this role, so I will investigate and see if there is anything that we can do over the course of the next year. But at this point, there's nothing to add.
I used to get emails, I don't know if Maureen did, from that organisation, but I haven't had anything in the past year. Did you receive anything, Maureen?
I think I did at the beginning, but they sort of didn't, they stopped coming in. I don't know whether it still exists or not.
The ones that I got, it was more dinner. It was meetings for dinner. So, Councillor Hislop?
Chair, I think it was when it was Provost Groom, he always asked me if I would wear was it a green suit with epaulets or something so that I could drive him to it. So would Mr McMeekin be getting a green suit with epaulets or maybe purple shirt if you take them up again?
You just would you like a green soup with epaulets, Scott? I didn't go. There were most of the meetings that I know that I did. I don't know if Maureen's the same. It was dinner, so I didn't think it was really appropriate for us. But Councillor Dempster, you wish to come in?
If there's dinners involved, I might be interested.
We'll get you the green epaulets.
And I'm with Ivor, a Lord Provost would be a very nice title for the Provost. No, what I want to say though was, I think that Maureen and Tracy deserve a round of applause for the work they do. It's giving up their free time often at weekends and evenings, dressing up in their finery and representing Dumfries and the wider region in a very positive fashion. So well done both of you ladies. I would certainly give you a round of applause.
It is, and I know that Maureen and I have spoken in the past about this. We shared the same thing. It's an amazing privilege to be ambassadors for this just wonderful town. It's in my hometown. I was born, raised here, and it means the absolute world. So thank you very much for that. And it's not a bind because it's such a great town, and the people of here are just very special. Yeah. Very special. Councillor Slater.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to both of you. It does, as Jim says, it does take up a lot of time in your private time to do that. And obviously, you agree to do that, and obviously you enjoy doing it as well, and it represents the town in good faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. There is many civic events that we get involved with, but I know personally some of the community events and private events I get asked to do are quite random and quite wonderful at the same time. So, as you'll have seen by some of the photographs. But Councillor Hislop.
Do any of us look like Darrell Hall or John Oates?
Well, we'll maybe provide some wigs or something, I don't know. But, it was a really, really good event and very well attended. And it's all these things. It's helping our local businesses. It highlights our local businesses. It highlights our local communities. So anything that does that is a positive. But yes, that was pretty random, that one. So anything else, members? Just move to recommendations. So members were asked to note the annual report for 25-26 on the Province of Dumfries is set out in paragraphs 4.4 to 4.10 and in the appendix. Can I ask members if this is a report that we wish to continue with? Councillor Hislop. Sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
I wonder there. Can we add a bit in there to commend the two who've actually taken on the role, because that's the official record rather than what's been said here today. So it's to commend the two provosts over the last year for their participation in the way they've carried out the duties.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson. Tracy has made a note of that. Councillor Dempster.
It's only, I think it's interesting and it illustrates what you do, and that report goes into the wider public domain, but only if it's no burden on you, because I don't think we should place additional burdens on elected members if it's something that they have enough to do on an annual basis without having to produce a report. But certainly I like to see it, but I think it should be doing at the discretion of the provost at the time whether he or she wants to provide a report.
In my current position that I'm currently here, I have no issue. It's nice. It was actually, it was a thought to start with, because I've got to keep a record of absolutely everything and write something on, on everything, and working with Scott on this, on everything that's extra work. But it is nice to see it all down, and I think it's nice for the members of the public and the members of the committee to see exactly the kind of things that we do, and they're very varied, as you'll have noted. So happy to continue this if members are happy to continue. Okay, so thank you, Scott. So agenda item 9, the land at Gordon Street Car Park, Dumfries. So this report confirms that the land at Gordon Street Car Park, Dumfries has been declared surplus by the council and asks if there are any other groups who should be consulted. So we have Colin Freeman on Teams. Good afternoon, Colin. Do you have anything to add?
Good afternoon, Provost. Good afternoon, members. Nothing further to add and happy to go to questions.
Thank you. So, any questions, comments from members? Councillor Slater.
Yes, this is the car park at the moment. Am I right saying that? Yes. Are we not partly struggling for car parks at the moment? So, and it's being used as a car park. Am I right saying that?
Colin, over to you.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you, Councillor Slater. Yes, there is an operational car park, and the space that's going to be utilised for the substation isn't actually covered by a parking space, so no parking spaces will be lost.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have had this before, Councillor Slater, where there is a small corner of a car park that we've been using. Nith Place, I think, comes to mind as one I think a couple of years ago we did that. So I don't think it's taken away many, if any, car parking spaces.
So it's just a small part of the car park it's been sold?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just for a substation.
That's great. Thank you.
It's highlighted in page 325, Provost.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Any other comments? Move to recommendations. Members are asked to note that the land at Gordon Street car park Dumfries extending to 30 square metres or thereby shown outlined in black on the appendix has been declared surplus to council requirements, and note the Community Council and groups listed on paragraph 4.4 in this report have been consulted regarding potential community interest, and identify any other groups to be engaged with in regard to the disposal of the land on Gordon Street car park Dumfries, and we did not identify any. Okay, move to agenda item 10. This is the programme of community engagement update. So in our final report, we're being asked to review the community engagement activity undertaken to date and the arrangements being progressed during 2026. So Fiona here, hello Fiona, will answer any questions on or queries on this issue. Do you have anything to add, Fiona?
No, nothing further to add, Chair.
So over to members. Do we have any comments or questions on this agenda item? Councillor Dempster.
Only one, Provost, and I know I wasn't able to attend, but there doesn't seem to be great appetite amongst elected members for events like this. And I wonder if there is a need to continue, because there's nothing worse than us arranging an event and having more members of the public attend than there are elected members. And I don't know that it delivers what we had hoped it would, where we wanted, well, my view was always, and Councillor Hislop will remember this well, we'd get into bun fights at local area committees and members of the public would turn up and ask questions, and that no longer happens because we don't facilitate that on email. So for me, it was a good exercise. It was a nice presentation because I've had a look at it, but there's not a lot of appetite by members of the public nor elected members, I don't think, for this type of event. So that's not a question, Fiona. I'm sorry about that.
Happy to come in that, Vice Chair. Obviously, we set these up in September last year, so I think if we give it a run for a year and see how it goes and then review it, if you are welcome to that. We've got another 1-2 split between 2 schools in the pipeline that we're looking at September, so if you let us get to that point and then we'll look to see what members want to proceed with next.
Oh, agreed. I think if we give this a run, it was an excellent event. The town board gave a fantastic presentation. I was disappointed at the lack of support for it. We had more people doing the presentation than we had observing, so that was a bit disappointing. Councillor Barretti, then Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, when this came up, would have liked to have gone, but at the time there was also other commitments in the diary, and those commitments took precedence, so it was unable to go. And given that, where I live, it is a little bit of a challenge. But no, I would actually like to see this continue.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I would just felt sorry for those who made the presentation, because it must have been soul destroying for them. But having said that, we then had a really, really fruitful, beneficial sit around the table in a much less formal setting, in room 2, I think it was, over tea and biscuits. So I think we kind of won them round, but you could see their faces when there was only 3 folk in the room. I think we should keep them going if we can. Just another comment, by the way, on the report. There's a number of spelling mistakes, especially in people's names. They've got mine, they've got a few others further down, all over the place. So can we just be careful when we're putting a public minute out?
Noted. I know how precious I get about the E in my name. If no one's put it in, it makes me quite twitchy. But I mean, it is fine here. I'm just saying noted. We'll make sure that that doesn't occur again. But members have any? I think we should carry on with these, and I would encourage members. And I know we have constricted diaries. I know we have conflicting diary events. So where possible, if we could go along to these, it does mean a lot to the community when we have something like that. Some of these community events, especially that town board presentation, was very enlightening to see exactly all the work that's going on. But sometimes our diaries cross, so it's difficult. We're quite well aware of that. Councillor Dorward. Oh, Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. No, I agree with you. I think it's essential that we keep plugging away at this. I hear what Councillor Dempster's saying, and it's really challenging to get people out at certain times of the day, including councillors. But I think we need to keep plugging away at it, because public discourse is absolutely vital. And question and answer sessions or just discussions are absolutely vital for our democracy, I think, at the moment. So I think we need to keep plugging away at it. In terms of requests for topics, how does that work, Fiona? How do we address that? Thank you.
If you have any requests, we're happy to take them now. If we can get 3 members to agree that that's a really good idea, we'd take that list and proceed in setting them up.
Roads would cover the hill.
No, happy to hear them. If you remember, we discussed them at length, all the different suggestions. At one point, it got quite confused at some point, I remember, about what we were actually trying to make happen, what we're trying to achieve with this. But if you've got any ideas, Linda, absolutely.
I'm not taking credit for this, Chair. It's from a colleague. I'm just speaking on behalf of a colleague. And the 3 suggestions, not requests, is let me just get the email. Sorry. Oh, I managed to do this on my iPad. I'm quite impressed with myself here. So I'll just read it out. How the new Fix My Street process works and how it relates to real-life road repairs. Development of DLT, not just Lowerburn Academy, but new Dumfries High School. Review how changes to bus infrastructure has been implemented, includes West Trans. Not controversial at all. Suggestions.
Just on that topic, Provost, see Dumfries High School, that would be a ward event surely, because of these things for general discussion. So you get Swestrans definitely, you get whatever, but Dumfries Town, and it would be important for the local community because that's who would be accessing the facility.
Just if I was going to come back on that, if I can come back on that, Andy, and then, but whatever, I don't mind who does it. I think because of the interest in DLT is across Nithsdale, isn't just Dumfries. I think it might be useful, but I'm not defending it or saying yes or no to it. I'm just putting a perspective in. Thank you. We can go on with this for hours, unfortunately. So, yeah, interesting.
I think if I could just come in there, Councillor Dorwood. So the idea is to engage with communities and perhaps what they've done so they can share that with us. So, for example, across the region, we've had people that have done police plans coming and sharing the joy and the pain and what's next in their police plans. So we've got more depth of understanding as to what our communities are trying to achieve. We're looking to do a sort of question time in Nithsdale between 2 schools. And they're thinking of doing something similar in the West. Another one was everyone that received a sports grant was invited to come along and present how they had utilised or used that sports grant. or indeed groups that have had tackling poverty and inequalities funding, getting a few of them along to present so we can understand more in terms of what that project means rather than how it's written on paper. But there's just a few ideas that's happening at other committees.
Yes, so however relevant these points are that you've brought for suggestions, they're internal. So this is about engaging the community to us so that we hear.
It's about reversing that process in essence. It's about reversing the process. So I think I'll pass that on to my colleague and just say that this, yeah, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Councillor Ferguson.
Fiona kind of took away half of what I was going to say there about it's an opportunity for organisations that we help fund or we've got an interest in. Like the town board is a perfect example where the money came from outside, right? And other than the fact we've got a rep on it, I think David's on it, if I remember rightly. Maybe one or two reps on it, but no, other than that, no influence on it whatsoever. It was a good way of getting it to come and explain what their plans were and where they were going to go. And I actually agree with Linda about the high school situation because the catchment area covers more than one ward. So it couldn't be a ward event, it would have to be a two or three ward event.
I think all high schools were reached out to, and that's the particular high school that had responded positively, isn't it? That's why it's the particular high school it's going to be in, that is why. But all high schools were reached out to because we could have done them in more than one or we could have done it in a different one. But that's why it wasn't a chosen one, it was the one that responded positively. Councillor Campbell online.
Thanks, Provost. Good afternoon, members. It was interesting to hear Councillor Dempster say there was no appetite, but my understanding of the discussions that all area committees had last year, and I'm sure it says in the report of 4.3, that this was something that we asked for. You know, so, I mean, maybe Councillor Dempster doesn't feel the need for one, but I would support this at least until up to a review. So I'm happy to do so. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I think we've all agreed that we're going to... I've never heard anyone say otherwise, be otherwise minded. We've agreed that we'll carry on with this, especially for till after the school events, and then we'll see where we are with member support on this issue. But thank you. Councillor Stitt.
I think it is a good idea. I'll make the one word in the Stewardry. We were 3 wards. We put an organisation from every ward to come and speak to us. One was a food bank, one was a group in Kirkcudbright took over, and another one was a group at Loch Ken with kind of disabled kids. And I think my ward worker invited them to come for it and see if they could make presentations. And there's only, and just like you said, there's only myself and Councillor Lowe attended the meeting, but it was a very informative night, and the groups put good presentations for it.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. Well, these are suggestions we could do if we agree after the review that we're going to carry with this. But the 2 events that we're doing, the Town Board one and the schools one, are ones that we agreed in committee that we were going to take forward. But that's an excellent suggestion. So I think when we do our review and if we decide to carry on with it, those are great examples of how we can implement those. Councillor Slater.
But just to say, the town board's got its new signage up and it looks quite smart, and also the fact that they're quite well ahead against other town boards in Scotland at the moment in time, so they're kind of leading the way in some ways. Just to say that they're doing their best at this moment in time. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Slater. Councillor Campbell, Councillor Ferguson and I were all at the event, and the presentation was excellent. And as Councillor Ferguson stated, over tea and coffee and biscuits, we had an even more in-depth discussion with them about their future plans, and it was very, very worthwhile. And yes, indeed, they're doing well. Thank you. So are we done with this, members? Oh, you want to come in? Sorry.
Just one question about the previous topic. How will pupils be allowed to engage in the process of meeting with secondary schools? Like, how will the pupils be chosen that will speak to councillors?
Thank you. We had originally organised the event for earlier in the year, but due to competing demands in schools, it was unable to go ahead. So, in speaking with schools, also linking with youth work staff and education colleagues, we're looking at modern studies pupils in the first instance. And if there's no enough that don't fill a hall, the school can open it up to as many people as they want.
Thank you.
But I would suggest if you or anyone else wants to be included in that, to let your school know that you'd really like to be involved. Okay, we'll move to recommendations, members. So members are asked to note the topics agreed by this committee for community engagement sessions as detailed in paragraphs 4.4, review the feedback from the community engagement event held with the Dumfries Town Board, and review the arrangements being progressed for the remaining programme of 2026. And I do not have any urgent business, so this concludes the meeting. Thank you very much once again, members, for everything that you brought to this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.